seats. What has been true over the course of the summer? It's been a pretty amazing summer. We've traveled all over the state. We've gone all the way to the border of North Dakota. 2 weekends ago, we were at an opera house in Akron, Iowa, which is about 25 minutes north of Sioux City on Highway 12. And we played some really big theaters, the Grand Opera House, which is in Dubuque. And well, it's almost an accident that this whole thing started. I went to a show at the Watch Here Opera House in Watch Here, Iowa, which is one of those towns that if you blink, you will miss it. But it was on the railroad line a ways back, and you know, as the state developed along all these railroad lines, I've basically just become overwhelmed and amazed with the history of the state from about 1860 to when movies and cars started to happen. Buildings like this were built as performance spaces all over the state for all kinds of reasons. Mostly to hold performances, but the places where they've remained are places where 1,200 people live, or there's a big enough town so that there were enough people who kind of always wanted to go, which is the case for places like this and the Grand in Dubuque. But we played in Blairsburg, which is an elevator. There's no bar and no store, and everything kind of closed down at night. We filled the house up in Ainsworth, which is kind of near Washington, Iowa. I don't know how familiar you are with the state, but I also I can't see you, so I can't tell whether you're bored yet. I hope you're not.
Not
guys excited about how bored he is?
No.
Anyway, so yeah, we've gotten to play all over the state, and after I played the show, or went to go see the show in Watch Here, Iowa, I was like, huh, I wonder how somebody would book a show in a place like this. I can't believe something like this would even exist. This beautiful old theater with a horseshoe balcony in a town where nobody lives anymore. Most of the rest of the buildings in downtown have fallen down since the 80s. And so I got to talking to those people, and they said, well, we kind of got a decent operation going on here, but it's nothing like what they have going on in Pella. You may have heard about Pella last year because Sarah Palin released her movie there. Apparently it didn't do so well. But the Opera House is beautiful. It's fantastic, and they all have tin ceilings like this, and they're long halls. They got used for basketball gyms. I talked to an old gentleman about a month ago who said that he grew up playing basketball in the Opera House in Ottawa, and the home field advantage was theirs because, well, it wasn't a full basketball court, so there were all kinds of rules that only the people who played there all the time knew. If you came to Ottawa, it didn't matter how great of a basketball team you were, they were going to beat you. And that Opera House is still standing, but it hasn't been used. The last time I looked, it was for sale. And we were out near it, but we didn't go. We were all the way west. But yeah, over the course of the summer and through the fall, sort of a bunch of people caught on to the same sort of dream that I had, which was to try and figure out how to put shows on in these places. I did a little bit of research, and it turns out they're all over the place. All over the place. Little theaters. And they got called opera houses, I am told, because theater people were considered to be a little bit off, turn of the last century, not quite mainstream enough so that you could tell people that you had a theater in your town. You couldn't really talk about it in church. But opera was classy, so they could have opera houses. It's really true. It's amazing how you talk to somebody and say that. And they were all built before there were sound systems, so although we have these wonderful microphones, which I have to thank Ear Trumpet Labs for providing to us, they're hand-built microphones that the aesthetic sort of goes with the theater. They were all built before there were sound systems, so they're built for sound. You can go to a place like this and listen to a string quartet with no microphones. There's somebody who can sing loud. I don't really sing that loud. I smoked cigarettes for too many years. I don't do it anymore, thank you. But they're amazing spaces, built before sound systems, built before cars. Some of them are in places, like down in the southeast corner of the state. I'll stop in a minute, I promise. I heard a snick over there, it's fun. Corning on a couple of different railroad lines and a waterway. birthplace of Johnny Carson. There's a statue of Johnny Carson in downtown Corning. There were no roads that went to Corning. There were only roads that went out from Corning, and they didn't connect to anywhere else. But it was on a major passenger line. So there was a guy who had a car there, and there were 3 opera houses. Turn of the last century, 1902, there were 3 opera houses. There's still only about 1,200 people that lived there, and the same was true then. But it was a tourist town because it was the second to last stop before the edge of the world, which was Omaha, when all the rail lines kind of came from the East Coast and culminated over at a single spot, Omaha, and there was one line that went all the way to San Francisco. So that was the end of the world. Corning was the last place you could go. Some people got rich there. It was kind of a famous town at a certain point. And, well, other people caught onto the dream. There have been songs written for this show. John Waite, who's going to play in a little while, is going to play a song called the Dwight D. Eisenhower Highway about how development of the interstate highway system sort of made things disappear. And all this sort of development that happened in the state has changed things. And the show is about, as John said, well, it's about historic preservation a little bit. I'm wanting to take a look at things that have been around for a long time. Things that have been around for a long time probably were built pretty well. This place was. It just stood a flood not very long ago. And, well, we're glad it's here, and we're glad to be here, and thank you guys for being here. And now I'm going to play some songs, which is probably what this is called The General Store. The stars above the general store are farther away and brighter than they've ever been before. I believe what I got is worth something more, 'cause I bought it at the general store. Grocery store's too big, no one stops to pass the time. I can't get what I need to fix my rig, and there's a million kinds of things that could be mine. Rows and rows of tiny, shiny things, it's true.